Hello, this is Zane Ali, and this is going to be my submission for Space Image and Sound. I'll be walking through how I did what I did, and why I did what I did, and what I gained from it, and what the next steps are. So essentially for this project, it started off, I wanted to do something with like glitches, but then I ended up talking to someone and we started thinking about this other idea, but then that fell apart, so that was like a couple weeks thrown away. But then so I decided I wanted to try this interactive journal through Unreal Engine, which I've never used before, and I thought Unreal Engine would be quite a useful and powerful tool to learn for my creative processes in the future. So I started off, I used the first person blueprint, and I went with maximum quality, ray tracing enabled with starter content, so that I could just get the basic stuff. Now usually it doesn't start with this type of screen. This is actually a screen this is not the sky that's used like default. I've chosen and used it myself. I've set it to that using the blueprint. Actually, I can just show you. Skysphere blueprint. So learning how to use these blueprints was also another task that I had to... So using these blueprints was another task I had to kind of learn with Unreal, finding the logic and using it with this kind of thing. In order to set the sky sphere to the texture I did, I used the source material, and I dragged in the asset that I had gotten from the store for free using the Unreal Store. So this just basically makes it so that when I adjust directional lighting, it'll also so if I press refresh material, it'll refresh it into the next sequence, so the next scene based on the directional lighting that I've used. A lot of these things I've learned through YouTube tutorials, which I'll have linked in the bibliography attached to the submission. So this is what first comes up, and learning just simple things like that. Being able to move it along different axes, a plane. And also learning to do this. Now, originally, when you get into this, they give you a gun that shoots projectiles and a first-person shooter crosshair. But personally, I did not want that in my project, so I had to edit the blueprint. Like, I completely removed the gun. The VR gun's still there, but I completely removed the gun. And for the crosshair, first person HUD event graph, I have a picture of it up here that I used. Hang on. I don't think it's here anymore. It's in, if I go, anyway, I'll show you the next level that I made. So this is the very early, first ever me trying to learn how to use Unreal Engine. Now, I made a landscape and I made a hill using the landscape tool. I simply went like this, went sculpt, we'll make the strength high, radius high, and I just made a hill. That's all I did. That's all I learned how to do, and it took me like a week to learn how to do this. And so now when you spawn in, you can spawn inside of a mountain. But that was the first thing I did. The main project is this here. Now this is what I've been working on for a while now. And mainly for me, Unreal, I don't want to be a game developer. I just wanted to learn how to use the landscape creation to create interactive environments. And so first off, I started with a flat plane. I created a new level, and it creates a flat plane with absolutely nothing on it. So I made a little a base plate, and I used the landscaping tool I showed earlier in order to create what I felt was quite a natural looking, like landscape. And I chose this area as the spawn spot. So when you go in, you can walk around and have a look. The next thing I did was to create water. Now, I went on and started trying to find like physics simulated water and all of this and how to fill it up with actual water, but that was beyond what I could do. I could not get the physics to work, which is why this is meant to be a waterfall here, and there's meant to be a waterfall over there as well, but I haven't learned how to do physics rendering with the water yet. So instead, I've gone with what the real basic way of creating a lake is, where you select a floor, a simple little like plate, and you essentially replace the texture with a water texture. Now I got the water texture for free on the marketplace, and that's well and good, but the thing with that is you can't, when you jump under it, it does nothing. You just fall through and there's just water like above you, but there's no difference at all. So I had to learn how to change the HUD of the user to allow them to, change how it looks visually when they go under the water. So for that, you use post-processing volume. And so you created this box. And once you enter this box, your vision changes to this blue color. And that just creates that look of the water. Now, editing the blueprint, I managed to get the sky to be that texture. And I used the sky sphere, which is very general use in Unreal Engine. I turn that off and it just goes black. So this is how it looks without it. So I put on the sky sphere, and with the sky sphere you use a skylight. Where is it? There we go, skylight. And this just creates, a skylight, so lighting based on the sky. And this is linked to the directional lighting, which this will break the lighting, but 90% of this project was actually building this lighting, but essentially with the directional lighting you can rotate it and you can have different like angles, essentially like the sun. Now, next up, after getting the lighting, which I still don't fully understand, as you can see, I'll get into in a bit, the lighting is very complex, and getting into that, I didn't realize how complex it would be, but I managed to get it to work in my favor, and I did a little bit of a roundabout way, because these trees ended up being like pitch black. Essentially, they were pitch black when I had the rest of the lighting set up. But I went about a roundabout way of creating these point lights, which are just little, you can see this one here, they're tiny little like orbs where you can edit the light, and it emits a light. That's it. That's all it is. So I used these and increased the radius and made them like soft lighting to make these trees not be completely in darkness. Speaking of the trees, I had to learn how to use the foliage tool, which absolutely murdered my computer. But this is how you add the grass. you simply just paint it on. You drag the foliage type you want, so you find the textures in here in the content browser, drag them in here, and with your paintbrush tool, you can paint essentially the foliage on, like so. Do that, and there you go. So this was definitely a very hard thing for me to learn, but I got there in the end. I'm not a very adept coder or engine user. I've never used a game engine before, so I'm sure. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. This is the space. This is the image, but the last aspect is the sound. So, and in terms of sound, I decided first off I wanted natural sounds. So one thing I actually have from my studio project, we went out and recorded some waterfall sounds, which fit in perfectly with this. So if I go in here, actually I'll turn this off real quick. Oh, it still plays. Hang on. Right, just mute that. So if I walk over here, so I got the audio to work, but the main key thing I wanted to learn how to do was the attenuation and spatialization of the audio, so that based on how far away you are from it, that's how it'll sound. So now if I get closer, recommend using headphones because this is the left side, this is the right side. It's completely based on where you're oriented. So if there was the water there, you would hear it just how you would in real life. And the same goes for this side here, which, there we go. You can start to hear it now. You get closer, you're underneath the waterfall. Now, that will be very useful in future projects of Unreal, because you can have, for example, a fire. Actually, I can just demonstrate it real quick. If I go like this, go start a content. Right, I just simply drag this here, this one here, drag that there. I can go ambient sound and drag this onto the flame. Grab this sound here, fire, bring it there, go down, override attenuation, attenuation distance, we want linear. Oh, actually, we'll go with natural sound. That's what I used for the waterfall. Sphere, attenuation at max distance, and we'll go, oh, actually, we'll leave that default, but the inner radius, don't want it to be too big, and the fall off distance, we don't want that big. So here we go. Put the inner radius like this, and simply play. I walk away, I walk closer. So if I want to do interactive environments in Unreal, I know how to make audio now. I can't believe that took me a week, a week and a half to learn the first time. But yeah, so this is that. There you go, easy audio. Now, one thing I still have not gotten is this. So this is where I want to have the actual input for the journal. And I just, the other thing I want is I want the tree to grow the more you input into the journal. So as you put the input in, it'll grow more and become a ginormous tree based on how much you have entered into the space, I suppose. So that's the next step I want to take with this project, as well as I want to make the water actual physics based, so you can have the waterfalls, and this when you walk into it, it doesn't just mesh. You actually splash it, and it moves based on where you are. Those are the next steps for the project. But overall, the main things that I wanted to create just the basic foundation of these, the trees, the natural setting of the landscape, and oh, that's the fire, and just creating the scenery along with getting the audio to work along with the imagery. So I think another thing I want to do is I want to get forest sounds, so and build a bridge across here so I can get there, and you can hear it, just like how you walk up to the fire and hear the fire. But yeah, that's my project for the semester. I've definitely learnt a lot about navigating through this very scary UI. It's been challenging, to say the least. But yeah, this has been very challenging to learn to navigate this UI. That's probably the hardest part for me, was learning where to find things and how to get it right, as well as all the settings for everything. But overall, we managed to get there in the end, and that is my project. Before I go, I completely forgot to mention, I made this song as like a relaxing little bit of tune to go with the atmosphere, so it's not completely empty. And that way, when you walk over to your, when you're walking through and examining everything, it'll be accompanied with a little bit of music to add to the Zen garden, as I call it. There'll be a slider and everything for the adjustable volumes, which are things I want to do. But yeah, thank you for watching. This is the Ableton. Quick, I'll show you the Ableton thing, and yeah, goodbye.